The British East India Company, EIC, was one of the most powerful and influential corporate entities in world history, playing a significant role in the expansion of the British Empire. Established in 1600 by royal charter from Queen Elizabeth I, the company was initially formed to conduct trade with the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia. However, over the course of 2.5 centuries, the EIC transformed from a commercial enterprise into a ruling power, exercising control over vast territories, amassing immense wealth, and fundamentally altering the socio-political landscape of South Asia. Its operations were not only economic, but also military and administrative, with a private army that, at its peak, exceeded 260,000 men, making it one of the largest standing forces of its time. The company's influence extended far beyond trade, shaping global geopolitics, governance, and colonial exploitation in ways that still resonate today. The British East India Company was founded at a time when European maritime powers were aggressively expanding their trade networks, particularly in the lucrative markets of Asia. The Portuguese, Dutch, and Spanish had already established themselves in the region, and England, eager to stake its claim, granted the EIC a monopoly on English trade with the East. Initially, the company focused on securing trading rights in spices, textiles, and other valuable commodities. It established its first trading post in Surat in 1612, following a naval victory against the Portuguese, marking the beginning of British commercial penetration into the Indian subcontinent. Gradually, the company expanded its presence, setting up factories in Madras, now Chennai, Bombay, now Mumbai, and Calcutta, now Kolkata, which would later become key centers of British power in India. The EIC's success was facilitated by several factors, including the decline of the Mughal Empire and the company's strategic alliances with local rulers. The Mughal emperors, particularly Jahangir and Shah Jahan, granted the British trade privileges, allowing them to establish fortified trading stations. Over time, the company leveraged these privileges to gain political and military advantages, laying the groundwork for its eventual dominance. The company's business model relied on monopolizing trade routes and securing exclusive rights to valuable goods, particularly textiles and spices, which were in high demand in Europe. However, as its economic ambitions grew, so too did its political and military involvement. While the EIC initially operated as a purely commercial enterprise, by the 18th century, it had become deeply involved in regional politics. The company's transition from a trading organization to a governing authority was gradual, facilitated by internal conflicts among Indian rulers and the waning power of the Mughal Empire. The company adeptly exploited divisions among local powers, forging alliances with certain rulers while fighting against others. British military engagements in India were largely driven by economic motivations, as control over territory translated directly into control over valuable resources and trade routes. One of the most significant events in the company's rise to power was the Battle of Plassey in 1757. The EIC's forces, led by Robert Clive, defeated the Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowlah, with the help of internal betrayals and superior military strategy. The victory was a watershed moment, marking the beginning of British territorial control in India. With control over Bengal, the wealthiest province in India, the company gained enormous economic leverage, allowing it to fund further expansion. This was followed by another critical battle, the Battle of Buxar in 1764, in which the EIC defeated the combined forces of the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II, the Nawab of Bengal, and the Nawab of Awadh. As a result, the company was granted the right to collect revenue, Diwani, in Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa, effectively making it the governing authority of these regions. The wealth extracted from Bengal played a crucial role in financing British expansion in India and beyond. The region's economy was systematically exploited, with heavy taxation and monopolistic policies causing widespread economic distress. Famines, such as the Great Bengal Famine of 1770, were exacerbated by the company's policies, leading to the deaths of millions. Despite these calamities, the EIC continued to consolidate its power, extending its reach through both military conquests and diplomatic manipulations. By the late 18th century, the company was effectively governing large swaths of India, implementing its own laws, maintaining its own military, and collecting vast amounts of revenue. The British East India Company's rule was characterized by a unique blend of commercial and political administration. While ostensibly a trading corporation, it functioned as a government, implementing policies that shaped the socio-economic structure of India. The EIC established a complex bureaucratic system to manage its territories, introducing Western-style legal frameworks, tax collection mechanisms, and administrative divisions. The company's governance system relied on British-appointed officials who oversaw local administration. While some Indian rulers were retained as nominal authorities under the doctrine of subsidiary alliances, their autonomy was severely restricted. The company also introduced Western legal institutions, replacing traditional Indian legal systems with British-style courts. Although this was justified as a means of ensuring justice, in practice, it often served British economic and political interests. One of the most controversial policies of the EIC was the Permanent Settlement of 1793, introduced by Governor-General Lord Cornwallis. This system fixed land revenue payments in perpetuity, creating a class of wealthy landlords, zamindars, who were loyal to British rule while dispossessing many peasants of their traditional rights to land. This policy had long-term consequences, exacerbating rural poverty and creating deep social divides that persisted well into the colonial era. Although the British East India Company's primary focus was India, its influence extended far beyond the subcontinent. The company played a significant role in British trade with China, particularly in the opium trade. The company's operations in China led to one of the most infamous conflicts in colonial history, the Opium Wars. The EIC illegally smuggled opium from India into China, leading to widespread addiction and social unrest in China. When the Chinese government attempted to suppress the opium trade, Britain responded with military force, resulting in the First Opium War, 1839 to 1842. The conflict ended with the Treaty of Nanking, which forced China to cede Hong Kong to Britain and opened several ports to British trade. Beyond China, the EIC also had interests in the Persian Gulf, Southeast Asia, and even Africa. The company's influence helped lay the foundation for British imperial expansion in these regions, creating trading networks that would later be integrated into the larger British Empire. Despite its vast power, the British East India Company faced growing challenges both internally and externally. Corruption, inefficiency, and administrative failures led to declining profitability. The company's exploitative policies also fueled widespread resentment among Indians, culminating in the Indian Rebellion of 1857, also known as the Sepoy Mutiny. The rebellion was a massive uprising against British rule, sparked by grievances over economic exploitation, religious interference, and military injustices. While the rebellion was ultimately suppressed, it exposed the fundamental weaknesses of the company's rule and led to a significant shift in British policy. In 1858, the British Parliament passed the Government of India Act, formally dissolving the EIC's rule and transferring all administrative powers to the British Crown. India became a formal colony of the British Empire, ushering in nearly a century of direct imperial rule. The company itself was gradually dismantled, with its commercial functions absorbed into the British state. By 1874, the British East India Company was formally dissolved, marking the end of one of the most extraordinary corporate enterprises in history. The legacy of the British East India Company is complex and deeply controversial. On one hand, it played a pivotal role in establishing British dominance in India, shaping the political and economic structures that would persist under colonial rule. It introduced Western legal and administrative frameworks, built extensive infrastructure, and facilitated global trade networks. On the other hand, the company was responsible for immense human suffering, economic exploitation, and social upheaval. Its policies contributed to devastating famines, cultural disruptions, and the erosion of indigenous industries. The company's influence also extended beyond India. It played a key role in the expansion of British trade in China, particularly through the opium trade, which had long-term repercussions for Chinese society. Additionally, the EIC's model of corporate imperialism set a precedent for modern multinational corporations, raising questions about the intersection of business and governance. Today, historians continue to study the EIC as an example of how private enterprise can wield state-like powers, influencing global history in profound and often troubling ways.